The Carlton Football Club. Bucks, how would Michael Voss been feeling on Friday morning after losing what many would describe as the unlosable game against the Tigers?
We can nearly see it on their faces as the game wore on. If you're a neutral supporter watching that, you couldn't help but get caught up with the energy of the Richmond players and the youth and the exuberance and the work rate. And the other compelling factor was the counterpoint of the Carlton faces and the dawning and realisation of what happens if we lose this game. As soon as that seed is planted in you, whilst you're trying to execute a role, a skill, a kick, a tackle, a contest, and you're thinking about what happens if this doesn't come off, and you could just see it snowball. Skill errors started
It happened
to bleed
just before half-time too. Just planted the seed enough, didn't they, Richmond?
So kicked 3 goals late, but I thought at a half-time, Carlton would have gone in and said, all right, now we're only 4 goals up here. We've got to really knuckle down, start the third quarter like we started the game, and then let's put the gap on and let's run away with it.
Defensively, Brownie, that was where they looked suspect. We know Wiedering was a star and probably the best player on the ground at half-time, but certainly for them, they started to struggle with their defensive side.
Yeah, they looked jittery, didn't they? You know, a few of the situations, no question about that aerial contest. Like Mitch McGovern, that's just no good. Like that head just goes forward. Keep your eye on the ball, and that's right. It's been the same story though for Carlton for a couple of years, and there's been mistakes under pressure by hand or by foot, and they haven't been able to cope with that. So that was the frustrating thing about it. Nick Haynes is a new player, but maybe a bit of an insight last year. Adam Kingsley wouldn't play him. You know, he certainly didn't play a chunk of footy. I know he had a bit of injury. He's on big money too. So there you go. So he saw some things that he didn't like.
You're asking off air about debutants that you like even that contest by Harry Armstrong. He's the one that wanted the ball. Yeah. You got 2 experienced players fumbling and bumbling, worried about making a mistake or trying to play safe. You got a young kid that just comes in and just get out of my way. I want the ball, and then made it happen. And there was a lot of situations like that where the Richmond players just made it happen, and they were written off. They would have. They've lived in the same bubble that we have. Uze's the criticism of Uze, the criticism of you're not going to win a game. I was worried about their youthful sort of key stocks in front of the ball, behind the ball. Yeah, Miller and Blight were great on Mackay. Lynch provided that target up forward. Bauer had a real crack. They just had a crack. And Carlton, the disparity.
What's worse? Not taking your eye off the ball, the Carlton blokes, or the Port Adelaide blokes not chasing, not having a crack in that regard?
It's the same thing. It's a hard game, footy.
So
you've got to be on.
Do you give them a mulligan, Geordie? We looked at Collingwood last week, and Collingwood performed poorly against the Giants. Is Carlton worthy of a mulligan?
I think I've seen it too many times to be awarded a mulligan. And you're right, those pieces of vision are the same players that keep letting this side down when it really matters, when the heat is really on. And I just worry that can this club and this team go to the next level and be a really high-performing team with those players that are still in the side and participating? I think that's their biggest question this year.
It's a coaching decision, isn't it? And you want to put some names on the table?
Well, I think McGovern. You don't mark Haynes too harshly because it's his first game. Missed a lot of
and he did a lot right. He did a lot right, but he did look like the change of direction, and as even a handball that he put.
Yeah, I haven't seen him like that for a long time, and maybe it's the footy that he's.
Well, and just coping with the pressure. That's a mental thing as well. There was a lot of fumbling went on. Like I know the ball's a bit dewy, but Richmond, it was dewy for Richmond as well. So a lot of fumbling. They just didn't cope with the pressure, and they should have. And that's an insight into their leadership or lack of out there. Enough guys throughout the team. That's why you can't trust them to be... Well, they played finals last year. You can't trust them to go to the next level and be a top 4 team.
I thought Vossi remained fairly composed on the bench. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but because he didn't let the emotions bubble up, which I reckon would have been really easy for a coach in that situation. I do feel that the team was saying, that's all right, Cripper will pick us up and carry us over the line. And I thought McIntosh's role was excellent in that regard. And Nankervis on Tom De Koning. Now, both De Koning and Cripps played great games, but I thought Nank and McIntosh were, they played with heart and with soul, and they were the leaders that dragged the young blokes along with them.
Yeah. Quick one-word answer: can they beat the Hawks Thursday night?
No.
Well, they can because, as we've seen,
One word,
teams on the rebound. Rebound. Look what happened to Collingwood.
No,
that's a big challenge, the Hawthorn Hawks.
Huge challenge.
On Thursday night. Well, it doesn't get any better. We've been to Alberton. We've been to Carlton. We're going to head west to Fremantle, and they find themselves on the back of a drubbing from the Geelong Football Club. Justin Longmuir must be looking at it going, maybe we are the vanilla Dockers.
Well, they were disappointing. I did call that game down there with Tom Hawkins. He gave some great insights on his old teammates, but geez, they're disappointing because a lot of talk has been about Fremantle Bucks going in. I know you know Justin Longmuir well, but big expectations coming into the season.
Look, outside of that 4-goal burst from Murphy Reid, they just had no weapons. Outside of that, it was just 6 goals for the game. 10 goals for the game from 43 inside 50s, but even more damning, from 55 inside 50s against, they gave up 23 goals. Mm-hmm. That's nearly a goal for every second entry. Now the Cats
10 in the last quarter.
The Cats are good, and once again, have you stopped playing? Have you stopped competing? And that has to be asked. The question has to be asked.
How would JL deal with that? Because you know him well. He was an assistant coach under you. How would he be dealing with the performance that Fremantle put up on the weekend? Granted, they had Bolton, Young, Walters and Fife out, 4 really big names, but how would he be dealing with that?
Pretty matter of fact. It'll just be against what were our plans going in? How did we execute that? What did we do well? What didn't we do well? And what are we going to do about that? What's the answer for us?
Great opportunity to respond. 3 games at home. So 3 games in a row at home.
Very
pragmatic, very pragmatic coach, but that is a big one. You look at Sydney, who are 0-2, and have performed relatively well against 2 really good opposition. But they'd be keen to travel, and they'll be hardened. But as we've seen, some teams that have had really poor first games have backed up a bit better in the second. So Freo, we'll see a different Freo over there.
Disappointing part was they got mauled in the midfield. I thought good matchups and good setup by the Geelong coaching staff. They got O'Connor to Brayshaw, just quelled his influence early. Sarong was quiet in the first half as well, even though he fought back in the third quarter. But they were brutal, the Cats. They were fantastic. 56 tackles in dry conditions by half-time. They absolutely mauled them. Their pressure was hot. It was like hot potato out there for the Dockers. So you know whether it was the chicken and the egg. But points from clearances, 59 points there. It was fantastic effort.
So the Dockers in 24 were the best clearance differential side. So even with Young out, and even maybe Sean Darcy, who might have given a bit of more backup in the ruck, and the Cats are prioritising transition. So the Cats are like, DeConing really stood up.
It was fantastic.
Against Jackson and Reid and played.
Are they the new Madden brothers, Justin and Simon? Tom and Sam DeConing? This might be a bit more athletic, I reckon.
It's an experiment that didn't look like it was great against Hawthorn earlier in the Pracky matches. But he stood up really well. His first half and the pressure that his follow-up play was excellent. But Geelong ended up kicking five goals from stoppage to none, I think. Or maybe it was one. Maybe Fremantle, their last goal was a stoppage goal. But 5-1 from stoppage in a phase of the game that Geelong really don't rate as much as their transition. So it was a concern.
Brandon, you're down there, Super Saturday. For his early game on Super Saturday live on Fox, Bailey Smith. You couldn't miss him.
Yeah, especially with that headband. Fantastic. Throwback.
17.
Headband,
Cotton on headband?
Oh, gee, I'm not going
to the Macintosh headband.
You get paid the big bucks.
We're not muckraking here. No, he was good. Jeez, he obviously had a great preparation, hasn't he? Because he ran out the game strongly, even though he hasn't played for 19 months. He was great. He wasn't polished with his disposals, especially in the first half, but he was in and under. He played a fair few centre bounces in there, so they certainly didn't nurse him into the game. He was fantastic and quickly becoming a cult hero down there. Jeremy Cameron was one of the quieter ones on the day, but he still fought back and kicked 4 goals. But what a recruit. And all of a sudden, you boys beat Geelong in that grand final in 2020. They were one of the more slower control teams. Now they're nearly the quickest team in the competition. The way they just bring the ball, their speed's
it suits him too, doesn't it? Like if you talk about players who suit specific game styles, and a lot of their players have a licence to really charge forward hard and score and challenge the opposition. I think that suits his game style to a T. He's one of those players, because he's such high energy, you could just see the other players around him.
He's buzzing around, wasn't he?
It was so infectious. So great start.
Their game style is chaos and speed. And you would know all about chaos and speed during your Premiership era. But it's pretty hard for an opposition to stop that from happening. So if you can impose your game style on whoever you're playing and force them out of their comfort zone and into yours, it's a pretty powerful thing to do. So the Cats are going to be hard to beat because they can throw that game into chaos whenever they like.
They've only got better over the off-season. Now, I know a lot of teams improve as well, but they've only got better. They're a top 4 team last year, so I can see them going even further than that. They're fantastic.